Trends. Heroes. Some are real, but most are myth and legend. Mankind has had an obsession with heroes for as long as we've been able to tell tales. There are variants on the hero story, and there are many types of heroes, but one thing can be said. A truly great hero, a man or woman with a truly great story who does a great thing, is remembered for a very long time, even if they're not a real person. These are 10 of the world's greatest mythical heroes. Number 10. Gilgamesh. Known from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is an Akkadian poem and considered to be the first great work of literature, Gilgamesh is a demigod of superhuman strength who builds the city walls of Uruk to defend his people, and after the death of his friend Enkidu, travels to meet the sage Utnapishtim, who has survived the Great Flood. The name Gilgamesh translates roughly into ancestor as a young man. Scholars believe he may have been a historical figure, but as time has passed, it doesn't really matter anymore. The epic is lodged directly in the center of our human experience. If he did exist, he probably was a king who reigned sometime between 2800 and 2500 BC. The Sumerian king list claims Gilgamesh ruled the city for 126 years. The Gilgamesh story was written across the span of a millennium by no specific author, but rather as a culmination of many different people adding their own part to this epic. It's probably a recording of earlier oral traditions passed down under the name Gilgamesh. Number 9. Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King, is a mythological figure who appears in a ton of legends, most of which can be traced back to the Song dynasty of China. He appears as a main character in the 16th century Chinese classical novel Journey to the West. In that novel, and in most tellings of his story, he's a monkey born from a stone who acquires supernatural powers through Taoist practices. After rebelling against heaven and being imprisoned under a mountain by Buddha, he accompanies the monk Xuanzang on a journey to retrieve Buddhist sutras from the West. Sun Wukong possesses immense strength, able to lift over 16,000 pounds with ease. He's incredibly fast, able to travel over 13,000 miles in one somersault. Even Superman doesn't have shit on that. That's more than halfway around the world. He knows 72 transformations, which allow him to transform into various animals and objects. He's a skilled fighter, capable of defeating the best warriors of heaven. Each of his hairs possesses magical properties, capable of being transformed into clones of himself and other various weapons. And he knows spells to command wind, part water, and conjure protective circles against demons, freeze humans, etc., etc. OP admin, please nerf. Number 8. The hero Beowulf. The name Beowulf literally means in Old English, bee hunter or bee wolf, and it's another meaning for the term bear. In the surviving epic poem, Beowulf was the son of Ecgtheow, a warrior of the Swedish Vegmundings. I'm gonna mess all of these names up, and you're just gonna have to deal with it, because they're not even close to normal. His father, Ecgtheow, was banished because he killed a man that was too important, and he had to seek refuge among the Danes. He swore an oath to their king, and while living with them had his son Beowulf. Beowulf really became known when the king of the Danes, King Hroðgar, I think, were being terrorized by a monstrous Grendel. Now, the Grendel is a creature that a lot of people think is an ogre, but it's something way worse. Whatever it was, it would come out of a swamp or forest and then attack the most powerful knights in the town, ripping them limb from limb, and then taking them back to its lair to devour them, or do whatever. It specifically attacked the strongest ones. As no man-made weapon can harm the Grendel, Beowulf was forced to rip its own arms off and then beat it with them. The Grendel would flee back to its bog to die from its wounds. Beowulf was considered a hero for this act. Beowulf would then take part in historic raids against the Franks with his king, and would have to swim home in full armor to avoid being killed when his king died. And through a crazy mix-mash of political sex scandals that I'm sure nobody cares about in this modern era, Beowulf would eventually be proclaimed king and decide to avenge the previous king to help a Swedish prince become king of Sweden. He ruled the Geats for 50 years until his realm was terrorized by a dragon after a thief stole a golden cup from its hoard of treasure. Beowulf slew the dragon by cutting it in half with a sword, but he was mortally wounded by being stabbed with the dragon's poisonous horn. With his last breath, he named Wiglaf the heir to his throne, and he was buried in a barrow by the sea. Number 7. Achilles. In Greek mythology, Achilles was a Greek hero of the Trojan War and the central character and greatest warrior of Homer's Iliad. His mother was the immortal Nereid Thetis, and his father was the king of the Myrmidons. Achilles' most notable feat during the Trojan War was the slaying of the other Trojan War hero, Hector, outside the gates of Troy. Sources indicate that Achilles was killed near the end of the Trojan War by Paris, who shot him in the heel with an arrow, like a dick. Later legends are the ones you're probably familiar with that state Achilles was invulnerable in all of his body except up for his heel because his mother dipped him in the river Styx as an infant, holding onto his heel. This is, of course, where the term Achilles' heel comes from. Achilles killed a lot of people. That's pretty much what he's known for. Also, Achilles may have been gay for a young Trojan prince, and when he rejected him, cut his head off and put it on a spike. But you know, things are a bit hazy. Number 6. Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is a deity whose name comes from the Nahuatl language and means feathered serpent. Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec god of wind and learning, wears around his neck the wind breastplate. This talisman was a conch shell cut at the cross-section and worn by religious rulers, and it's been discovered in numerous burial sites throughout Mesoamerica. The era following the 16th century and the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire, sources begin to combine the stories of Quetzalcoatl and ᴍᴏᴇ, the ruler of the mythical historic city of Tollan. Quetzalcoatl was related to the gods of the wind, of the planet Venus, of the dawn, of merchants, of the arts, crafts, and knowledge. He was also the patron god of the Aztec priesthood. The exact significance and attributes of Quetzalcoatl vary between civilizations and throughout history. It's noted that he was born by a virgin who the god Ontol appeared to in a dream. In another story, the virgin swallowed an emerald and birthed Quetzalcoatl, and in a third story, the woman was hit in the womb by an arrow shot by Mixcoatl, and 9 months later she gave birth to a child, which is Quetzalcoatl. There's more stories, but you can see how it's all over the place already. Quetzalcoatl went to Mictlan, the underworld, and created a fifth world, mankind, from the bones of previous races, using his own blood. So that's pretty dope. Number 5, Anansi. Anansi is an African folklore character. He often takes the shape of a spider and is considered to be the spirit of all knowledge of all stories. He is very important in West African and Caribbean folklore. Sometimes he's an ordinary spider, and sometimes he's a spider wearing clothes or with a human face. Yuck. His origin story is as follows. At one point, there were no stories in the world. The sky god, Naim, had all of them. I don't know how that works, but alright. Anansi went to Naim and asked how much they would cost to buy. Anansi would have to bring back Onini the python, Asbio the leopard, and Mboro hornets. He set about and captured each of the 3 creatures. When he handed them over to Naomi, Naomi rewarded him by making him the god of all stories. This probably has a lot to do with the African slave trade, but I don't know, and it's also weird, and not translated well. Number 4, Karna. Karna is one of the central characters of the Hindu epic, Mahabharata. Okay. The epic describes him as the king of Anga. He was one of the greatest warriors whose martial exploits were recorded throughout the epic, and the only warrior believed to be able to defeat Arjuna in battle. According to the epic, he was the only warrior in that era who conquered the entire world. Karna single-handedly successfully constructed a military campaign in which he conquered all kings in every direction of the world, and was instrumental in establishing the new emperor of the world to conduct a sacrifice. That's oddly specific. Karna fought against misfortune throughout his life and kept his word under all circumstances. It's believed that Karna founded the city of Karnal in present-day Haryana. Karna is often quoted for his sacrifice, courage, charity, valor, and selflessness. And probably conquering the entire world in every direction. That would probably help. Number 3, Diarmuid Diarmuid is from Irish mythology. In the legend, the god of love and creativity was Diarmuid's foster father and protector. Diarmuid was a skilled warrior and a well-liked and valued member of the Fianna who single-handedly killed 3,400 warriors in a battle and saved Fionn and the Fianna. He received a sword from his foster father that would automatically kill a man in a single blow, leaving no stroke unfinished. He also wielded 2 spears, the yellow spear and the red spear, which both caused wounds that could not be healed. He used those for the lesser battles, according to the lore. He was famous for his beauty and for his, quote, I'm quoting here, love spot, which made him irresistible to women. While hunting one night, he met a woman who was the personification of youth. After sleeping with him, she put a magical love spot on his forehead that caused any woman who looked at it to fall in love with him. Oh, that's slightly more wholesome than what I thought it was. He's in the Fire Emblem series. How about that? Number 2, Rostam. Rostam is the most celebrated legendary hero in Iranian mythology. Rostam is best known for his tragic fight with Isfandiar, the other legendary Iranian hero, for his expedition to Mazandaran, which is not the Mazandaran province we know today, and for his fight with his son, Sorab, who was killed in the battle. Rostam was eventually killed by Shaghad, his half-brother. He represented the mightiest of Iranian paladins, and he was immortalized by the 10th century Persian poet Ferdowsi in the Epic of Kings, which contains pre-Islamic Iranian folklore and history. He wore a special suit named Babari Bayan in battles. And number 1, Sigurd. Sigurd is a legendary hero of Norse mythology, as well as a central character in the Volsunga saga. The earliest extant representations for his legend come in pictorial form from 7 rune stones in Sweden. Sigurd is corrupted by rain. Long story short, Sigurd agrees to avenge Rain and Hreidmar by killing Fafnir, who has been turned into a dragon by the curse on a ring. Sigurd requests for Rain to make him a sword and tests the sword by striking against the anvil it's made from. A couple of swords are made and they all break, so Sigurd orders Rain to make a sword out of the fragments that have been left to him by Sigmund. The resulting sword, Gram, cuts straight through the anvil entirely. On his quest to kill Fafnir the dragon, Odin, posing as an old man, gives Sigurd advice to dig trenches to drain the blood of the dragon while combating it, confiding to him that dragon's blood confers invulnerability. Sigurd follows the instructions given to him and successfully kills Fafnir. Sigurd drinks some of Fafnir's blood and gains the ability to understand the language of birds. The birds advise him to kill Rain, since Rain has also been corrupted by the ring and is plotting Sigurd's death. He beheads Rain, roasts Fafnir's heart, and consumes it. This gives him the gift of wisdom. So it's your classic guy goes out, gets a special sword, kills a dragon for what reason or not story. And it's stuck with us for a very long time. It might be the reason we as human beings see dragons as evil, as it even worked its way into Christianity at some point, which is why dragons can often represent symbols of Satan. Well, I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like the video, please give it a like down below, and if you want to